We are back with Let's Talk Autism, and now we have with us Jennifer St. Jude. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you.
And Jennifer is an advocate and a contributing author to a book we're going to be talking about. She has a bachelor's degree in social work and adult teaching credential, and she is not only the mother of two daughters on the autism spectrum. You were diagnosed after a lifetime of difficulties yourself. And your personal journey of hope is included in a very unique book here that's called What Every Autistic Girl Wishes Her Parents Knew. So welcome, Jennifer. And tell us how you became involved in contributing to this book, What Every Autistic Girl Wishes Her Parents Knew.
It was about 3 years ago, and I was approached by a woman, Sharon Davenport. She runs Autism Women's Network, and I kind of found out after the fact that I think they received a grant to use money to help the autistic community, and used it to create this book to help girls while employing women on the spectrum to write it. So it was really amazing. I don't know how or why they chose me. I think I know that I'm on Facebook with them, and maybe I know I write a lot on different topics, so I think that they maybe saw something and asked me if I would contribute. I have 2 girls on the spectrum, so I kind of come at it from 2 different angles, my own experience, but also raising children on the spectrum, and then being involved in advocacy for a lot of people.
Right.
So when they offered to contribute, I just said yes. I wasn't even sure what I was saying yes to, but I was yes, because they've done so much for me. Autism Women's Network, I just figured nothing I could say no to for them.
Well, yeah, so. The Autism Women's Network, how do people learn about them? Because if they've helped you so much, we'd like other people to be
Yeah, I know that it's autism. I think you just search Autism Women Network, it's .org, and I don't know if it's awn.org, it's probably autismwomensnetwork.org.
Okay.
And, but I found them just searching desperately when my daughters were diagnosed, and I was starting to recognize myself just for girls and autism, women and autism, and I couldn't find anything except Autism Women's Network. Okay. And I know that you had asked me what they do there. They are just a main site for advocacy. They're in the forefront with issues with women, and they're protesting and helping in Congress, and they just do everything.
Wonderful. They do amazing work. We've been big fans of theirs for a long time, and they have regularly shared things from our show. And one of the things that's been fascinating to me is that a couple of times we've reached out and said, "Hey, would you like to come on and promote your organization?" And the answer has always been, you know what, we like for people to find us, and we're busy doing what we do, and they're that level of fabulous that they're not about promoting for promotion's sake, and I'm always very impressed with the things that they do. But I have to say too, I'm impressed with you, and I can see why they would be impressed with you. I've read some of the things that you've posted online, and you are one of the clearest voices I've read in looking at and explaining sometimes, people will write things online that that come solely from their perspective without being able to see other people's perspectives. And I think you have written some of the most impressive stuff about acknowledging the fact that sometimes there is an inability to see things from people's perspectives, and that we still have to welcome those people to conversation, even if they're not able to take someone else's perspective.
Yes, I think I even know which post you're talking about.
Well,
yeah, people can be harsh with the other side, whichever side that is, and about their lack of understanding. Even the autism community can be harsh with they're not being understood. But there's a woman named Donna Williams who taught me that approaching everyone with education versus condemnation is always the best approach, and I've started to take that approach as well, because it's really the only way to change someone's opinion or to help teach them about a topic.
Before we get into sorry,
I'm sorry. Can I just add one thing to it? For you to express it the way you have and so clearly is so amazing. But then when you find out that not only do you have a diagnosis, but you're also a parent too, it's like you get to hit it on all pistons. Nobody can take issue with it because the parents are like, no, you totally get what that's like. But for everyone else on the spectrum who's like, well, what about our voice? You are both of those things. You're kind of amazing and articulate the experience that you bring to it. So
Thank you.
impressive.
Tell us just before we get to your daughters and what typical issues girls face. You write about what you went through. You said you withdrew into your own private prison when you were younger, and you found a way to look normal, but you weren't really normal, but you just emulated these things. Can you talk about your experience just a little bit?
It's something I hear a lot from autistic women, and I think it makes me think that autistic women have a much easier time faking it. And faking it is comfortable for you all, like everyone else, but it is a horrible experience. I know someone in the book even mentioned it, that the fear or the feeling that you have is that if you're faking it so well, and people love you, do they only love you for who you're pretending to be? And if they only knew who you really were inside, what would that be like? And what would they think of you? And then you kind of insert your own condemnation of what you think of yourself, and then it's really a negative experience. You can't, people will say like, but everyone likes you, but then you think, yeah, well, they just like the person I'm pretending to be. And that it's a horrible feeling because you feel like no one really knows who you truly are. And I think being diagnosed and writing this book, coming out and slowly starting to become more of who I am and just own that has made me be able to just be more like who I am and just accept that and realize that people still like me. I'm not, it's very challenging, but it's a much better experience to just be who you are than to pretend. But it's hard not to, because society need you to act a certain way, and they even go to lengths where they get agencies to teach your kids how to act a certain way that's acceptable so that people will like your children. And it's a challenging world to live in.
It is a challenging world, but I think the book is so helpful to parents who've got girls. And your chapter in particular, I think you break things down in a way that makes it so accessible for us to be able to see it from a different perspective.
Yes, you actually have common qualities and issues, and then you have what our girls with autism need. So some of these are like common qualities, affectionate, what they need, belonging, helping find a place where they feel they belong to meet it, and black and white, all or nothing thinking, difficulty seeing the big picture, and then you go on to illuminate things that they actually need in these areas.
Yeah, it's I know someone had asked me how I came up with that. I think part of it is I'm on different boards. There's a autism discussion page, and he breaks everything down where he not only tells you what your problem is, he tells you how to approach it, and then gives you 1,000 examples. And it's like I found that so helpful in my own experience that I realized I have to be more like that when I explain things to people. So I thought about the things that not only I faced, but my daughters faced, and other people I know with children, and especially girls on the spectrum faced, and just I'm kind of a pattern seeker, which is like, stereotypical, but it's true. And I kind of thought about things that showed up more frequently, and then just thought about the things that I did. I mean, some of the things that I wrote were things that I did that actually worked, and some of them were things that I realized after they failed that I wished I would have done this. Now that that's not an issue anymore. I just learned along the way, and I think every woman in this book who wrote their piece, the goal was to help the people before them and the children that are coming up, the girls that are coming up, so that they don't have to go through this. I mean, that was, and I really got that from all the people who wrote, what they shared.
And you're a mom, 2 girls, and they're teenagers now?
It feels like they've always been. No, they're wonderful. I mean, they really are. I mean, people shoot comments about teenagers, but they're wonderful. I have one's 11, and the other one is 13.
Okay.
And
so teens and tweens.
Teens and tweens.
And they're both on the spectrum?
Yeah, they're both diagnosed at different times. They're very interesting. They're very different. One is more outgoing, not really recognizing signs, a little more Asperger, classic Asperger. The other one is a little more what I would call more autism, just, where everything is overwhelming to her and she withdraws from people. So they're very different types of autism in girls that I can relate a little bit to each of them differently, but, it gave me a lot of diverse experience because I have to really approach them very differently.
Is there a main message you want to tell parents that have girls on the autism spectrum? I mean, is there an overall theme that you would like to convey to them?
I mean, mostly most of what's written is addressed to boys. Most of the research was done with boys. So a lot of times what happens is parents get told your daughter's not on the spectrum because it's all being judged on characteristics of males, and just to trust your instincts, to know what it is and give your girl an identity, because I know that for a lot of people talk about they don't want to label, but everyone in this book that I've read about, including myself, I felt crazy, I felt lost, I felt like an alien, I felt like I didn't fit anywhere, and to recognize myself in this and to find my people, it was life-changing. And so find your girl's people, find her people, and set up play dates and encourage that. Don't try to force her into socializing situations with neurotypical girls that she feels like an alien with.
Yeah. Really, some of what you talk about is how that identity and being encouraged. How specifically, I was really struck in the book, one of the things that you had said was that you learned how to be an angry teenager, like the politics of being an angry teenager. And I think there's something about being a parent anyway with a teenager that you think that, oh, well, that's just going to come. But I'm guessing it doesn't have to. And having been there yourself, we've all been teenage girls, but you've been a teenage girl who was on the spectrum, didn't know you were on the spectrum, and now you've got the two teenage girls. What do you do with your girls to encourage them?
That feels like a lot of questions in one. So
I'm sorry,
I'm thinking,
it is.
That's okay. I'm thinking of different things.
It feels like it is.
I'm thinking of different things. One thing I'm thinking is I'm really, really, really happy because I feel like I've given my daughters a different experience than what I had. And my girls are not angry teens. They're moody and they have their ups and downs, but they're not angry teens. And I think the biggest thing is I treat them with respect. And if they're upset about something, I ask them why. I don't just shut them down, like, stop that. I ask them why and we talk about it and I try to help them understand. Is that?
Yes.
No, I think that answers more, that and more, all the questions I had.
But you write here, and this really, when we talk about advice for other parents, you say that, there'll be a lot of heartache, that you're going to be going through a lot of things, a lot of battles, you're addressing parents with the fact that you said they will grow tired at times, and there'll be days when they feel like they've failed at everything. But you will believe your child will only be happy when all these things are worked out. But the truth is that she will be happy knowing she was loved enough that you're here fighting and advocating for her. It's okay to make mistakes, to fail, to do everything the opposite way from what you had planned that day. It's okay to model saying "I'm sorry" more times than you can count. But when you end your day, know that you gave your child the most important thing she needed and longed, your love and dedication. So I think that's just an incredible message.
Right?
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah, I mean, it has been excruciating, and it hasn't been having children on the spectrum that's been the most difficult. It's been interacting with society, fighting the schools, fighting the doctors, fighting this, to just get basic level support and acceptance. It's been, grueling. And sometimes you want to turn on, am I doing this wrong or whatever? And it's really just about do your best with love. It doesn't matter what you do your best with love and that'll come across. And one thing I want to say, because it's something that comes up a lot about people not telling their child that they're autistic or not, and I actually even got kind of flack from this because my youngest knew too much about autism. And I tell them constantly, yes, that's maybe your autism, and oh, you can play the piano really, really well. That's probably your autism. I tell them the good and the bad because it's reality.
Yeah.
And I want them to know what makes you different with autism and how you can work around it, how you can compensate. Because you can't cure it, but you can compensate. My life has been changed by some basic services, occupational therapy and just therapy, learning these things, It's been completely transformed. I am not the person I used to be like 5-10 years ago, not at all. And it was because of that, so.
Wonderful.
So let's talk about how they can get the book.
Yes.
What every
where can
autistic
we
girl
get our
wishes
own
her parents
copies?
knew.
Actually, it's available on Amazon.com.
Okay.
That's the biggest site that I know of. I'm not sure about anywhere else. I know you can get it directly from the publisher, I'm sure, and I'm sure you can also reach out to AWN. But Amazon.com, if you just type in the title, What Every Autistic Girl Wishes Her Parents Knew, it pops up. And I encourage people to, Honestly, I don't read. I have a really hard time with comprehension, but I felt it was my duty to read this book before I came on here.
Wow.
And so I played it. I have an iPad and I play it auditorily because it was really hard. But I read this whole book, and the people who write in this book, it is phenomenal. I mean, I shared what I shared, and I hope it's helpful, but they shared things I didn't, and together we have such a big voice for girls on the spectrum. And I really think that if you have a daughter, you have to read this and be encouraged.
Absolutely, but I'm amazed that you have issues with comprehension because you are such an amazing writer.
Yes.
You are the clarity in what you write, because sometimes it's very difficult, complex things that you're writing about, but the clarity and the sense that's there, really, honestly, I read a lot of things from a lot of people, and yours is amazing.
I can't explain that. I can tell you that my comprehension is so bad that there's times I read my own work after a while and think, I'm not sure if I understand what that says anymore.
Wow.
And people tell me that I write well, and I just must think that part of my brain works really well to the point I don't even know it. Because I read it and I think, I'm not even sure what that says.
Well, you're a beautiful writer, and you're very articulate, and we appreciate you coming on the show today.
Yep.
Sharing what every autistic girl wishes her parents knew, and sharing your journey and your journey with your daughters.
Thank you. Is there time to read one thing?
Yes, you do.
Go for it.
It's actually, to me, it's really important because it's the dedication. It's from this book, and it meant the world to me that it was included in here. And it was the woman who put this together, Sharon Davenport, put together a dedication for this book. I wish I could find it faster.
It's
I'm so
okay.
sorry.
No, you're doing fine.
If you could help me.
Doing good.
Okay, dedication, and this is what I want to say. Like, it says, this book is dedicated to all the autistic women of our past, our present, and those we know and those we haven't, who have gone without recognition, support, or acceptance. And it just makes me so happy that we can be a voice for every girl and woman on the spectrum. So.
It's an important book. We want to encourage
Yes.
people to get it. We want to thank you for being here
Thank you very much.
and for putting this in writing along with other people, because what a great tool. What a great tool. Thank you so much.